Hello and welcome to our live chat with Chaddock. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you and thank you for joining us. My name is Kirsty Ruggles. I am the manager of the Knowledge Center at Chaddock. And I have been at Chaddock for just over 5 years, working in a number of different departments at Chaddock, both outpatient therapy, within our special education school, and now delivering trainings throughout the state. And I would like to introduce my colleagues. So Marcia, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself first, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Marcia Ryan. I've been at Chaddock a lot of years. I'm not saying how many at this point. I've had a lot of roles, but my current role, I've worked as a parent coach out of the foster and adopt building, as well as doing in-home intensives. So that's what I'm doing now. I've been relocated and get to do work with the kids and the staff on campus.
Thank you, Marcia. And Brooke, if you would like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, and I'm Brooke Linenfelser. I started out at Chaddock as a residential therapist, and then currently I am overseeing our in-home intensive program and then also our accelerated residential.
Okay, so we are here tonight to help answer some of the questions that you might have regarding parenting during the pandemic. Obviously, this is a very strange situation that we find ourselves in, and we've been in it for quite a few weeks now. A lot of people working from home and having to do homeschooling and have those kinds of experience. So we had some questions that were submitted. So the first question that we had was, how do I manage the guilt from not following the stay-at-home orders completely? So that's a good one. There are situations where we've all had to probably go out and run an errand or do something that's necessary for us that makes us leave the house. So what do you guys think? How do we manage the guilt from not following the stay-at-home orders completely?
I think we just have to give ourselves some grace. We're not going to be able to do everything perfectly. And just give yourself a pass, because that guilt's just going to eat at you and it impacts everything you do that day and moving forward. So definitely just give yourself a pass.
Yeah, sometimes, we have to just remove ourselves and do something that might be against the orders, but for our own mental health, if we just need a break and go to the grocery store just for one item, just to say that we got out of the house, we might feel a little bit bad, but looking on the bright side, that might have been just that opportunity for you to catch a breath so that you don't yell at your kids or you don't scream at your husband. It's just that moment that you need to help yourself.
I definitely can relate to that feeling of needing to be out. As someone who works from home, usually, I have found it to be even harder now because I can manage during the day when I'm at home, but I always relied on that time in the evening when I could go out and, get some space, get out of the house, be around people, because usually it's just me at home. And so to now have very strict limits on that, it's been really hard. And I don't have kids at home. So I can only imagine how hard it would be for somebody who is used to working out of the house and now is in the house and has got kids at home the whole time and can't get any relief from it. I suppose I try to exercise. I try to go out and walk and or take a bike ride, that kind of thing, to try to limit being around other people. So that might be something that people consider doing is doing a form of exercise where you're still getting out of the house, but you're not placing yourself at risk of being around other people.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess, trying to remember to follow, if you've got a mask, wear a mask, washing your hands, before and after coming in and out of the house, that kind of thing. And following, using hand sanitizer and following those kind of precautions is probably the best best idea. Okay, so how do I prioritize what needs to be done first? Schoolwork, my own work, self-care, or household task? How do we prioritize what needs to be done first? Marcia, what do you think about that?
That's a tough one because, everything seems to be needing to get done all the time at the same time. You have schoolwork has to be done at the same time that you have your Zoom meetings. It's the same time that you have, the dog then needs to go out. And, I really preach having a good structure in the household. But you also have to go with the rhythm of where the kids are at. If the kids are having a huge meltdown over something, get the kids calm. And that's not a time to force feed schoolwork. Especially if you're still having to do, work at home. You got a screaming kid here, you've got work at home here, and something's got to give. So that might be a time where you put the schoolwork aside, you give them an activity to do. Some people say, well, you're placating them, or no, you're going with the rhythm of what the family needs at this time. And so really looking at what each person needs and try to meet those needs so that things can get done in a calmer, simpler way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about in our webinars about choosing your battles. And I think that it's certainly okay. It's okay to say to your child, wow, it looks like we're having a really hard time managing this right now. Why don't we see if we can do this task first instead of this one? But we do have to come back to this one when we're ready. So still maintaining the expectation and, reiterating to them that we do still have to get these things done, but we don't have to do it in this set order if we're having trouble with it.
Sometimes it goes that way. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like, stop, you gotta go away, and that's when you're like, okay, take a minute, yeah, just, being as good of a worker and a parent as you can be in those stressful times is tough. And if you could just, write them a little note and say, hey, go take a break, go eat a snack, and I'll be with you in, this many minutes, can help relieve a little bit of, the whining and complaining. I don't know. What do you think, Brooke? You're living that.
Yeah, I was going to say, trying to be attuned to what part of the day you've noticed that your kids are more engaged in their schoolwork. So trying to work your schedule around that, so then we can try to be proactive and eliminate some of the fighting or arguing that you might be experienced with trying to get them to do their schoolwork. I think it's probably the best plan. And if you can make out a plan like on a little whiteboard the night before and say, hey, this is when we're going to do this, and then mom has to do this at this certain time, and she has to be left alone. It doesn't always go as planned like you just shared, but if they can have an idea, that might alleviate some of that stress that they're experiencing right now.
Yeah, that's good. If you have, a little sign, a signal, whether it's a stop sign, because everybody recognizes a stop sign outside the door. This is a time I cannot be bothered. So you need to figure it out. Unless somebody's hurt, do not disturb. If you don't want to do your schoolwork, okay, fine. That's not a time for tattletaling. Go play when this time is over. So that the kids know there's a visual signal as to when you can be disturbed and when you can't be disturbed.
Would it be helpful, Marcia, if people, if parents had maybe a couple of a plan B and a plan C for times like that? So if we've set our children to a task and this is when we're supposed to be focusing on our work, and our children come to us and they're really struggling with the task that was set, would it be helpful to have, okay, let's go to our plan B, because this is the time when I need to be working?
Yes. definitely have a plan B and a plan C. You know, you hope, you know, you plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? And so these are the plans that are for the day. You know what you've got to do if you're working from home. You know when you can be disturbed. You know when you can shut the mute off and shut the picture off and turn around and say, okay, here's what you go there. You know, sometimes you can't, and that's when you have to have, okay, you hear them in the background, then you're going to have to make sure that they know, okay, if you can't do this, then let's just go ahead and do this. We'll come back to this. So you plan ahead, you give them information. Because if you tell them to do something, you know, particularly, and then they get stuck on one problem. And we know kids, they're not going to go to the next problem and come back to it later. They're just going to have a meltdown over the one problem they can't get. You know, you can say, let's do this until you get stuck. When you get stuck, put this aside, don't worry about the rest, and here's what you're going to do next, you know, so that they know what their plan A and plan B is.
Yeah, I have that going on right now in my house. Just with my youngest, he needs a lot of help with his homework. And so if there's something that I'm doing and I can't get to him, then he knows what he can do if he does get stuck, let's say on a math problem. That's where I notice that he needs the most help. So then he can either switch over to his spelling work, or I have my kids do one chore a day, or he can switch over and do the chore. So then when I'm done with whatever meeting I'm doing, then I can come back and help him with his math assignment.
That's really good that you have that already set up, so that when you're in the moment with them, you know what your go-to is. Mm-hmm. I think often and you know, it's understandable because parents are so busy that there's not always the time to do it. But even a brief chat like the night before at bedtime and saying, you know, okay, well, mom's got this important meeting tomorrow morning at this time. Here's our tasks. What could we do if we get stuck? And just even that kind of a 5-10 minute chat before bed lays that preparation for the next day, so that we're not finding ourselves in the moment stuck with, oh gosh, what do we do? Because then we go into panic mode in our back brain, and then that flusters us. So, you know,
and you're exactly right, because you know, everybody goes into panic mode when, you know, you're stuck in front of a screen, and then you hear everything going on around you. You're not fully focused on the screen because you're going, please don't let them kill each other. Please don't let them kill each other. Just till I get done here. Yeah. You know, having something set up where they can slide you a note, and, you know, you read the note. Hopefully they can write. And then you can write them a quick note back and slide it back under. So there is, you know, some form of communication and some form of connection, because you got, you know, a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, you know, sometimes, especially now, because kids, you know, we talked about the window of tolerance in our, the next coming up, you know, they're already their window of tolerance. They're already anxious, they're already nervous, and now mom's not available, and now they can't do their homework. So their window of tolerance is going. If you give them some sort of communication, some form of way to connect with mom, maybe that will relieve some of their anxiety and open up their window of tolerance a little bit.
Okay. So I just wanted to, we had a couple of people join us, so I wanted to just point out that if you do have questions for us, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box that is at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will work on answering those as we go through this session. Another question that we had, what are some things that I can do to relieve my stress during the day without taking too much time, because I'm working from home and dealing with young kids? So what are some things I can do to relieve my stress during the day that don't take too much time? I think that's really what I'm hearing. So small things. So what are your ladies' thoughts on that?
And this would be before the day even starts. That's when I like to exercise, so I get that in. Not everybody's a morning person, so I know that won't work for everybody. So I would say if you can go outside for 5 minutes and get some fresh air, that's a quick go-to. Taking a break and roll through your phone on some social media. It's just kind of, it gives you that numb out, that escape for a little bit. Even just reading a book for 10 minutes or a magazine, just those small self-care opportunities that you can take throughout the day. Mindfulness is another great thing that you can do. You can search online for all kinds of different mindfulness activities to try out. One easy one is to go outside and then close your eyes and listen to how many different sounds you can come up with, or scan your environment outside or even inside and come up with how many colors that are in the environment. Anything that's going to make you be in that moment and it's non-judgmental, it's going to help you just relax throughout the day.
And even you can even do that one, so all of them inside, but just looking out the window if it's raining and noticing the rain on the windows and the raindrops. Yeah, mindfulness just takes that moment, and you only have to do it for a minute, 2 minutes, where you just are breathing, you're focused on your breathing, you know, stepping outside. Walking around the house, noticing around the house, what's around the house. Sometimes just going into another room away from everybody and just breathing really heavy, really hard, you know, just to relieve the stress.
Those are some things as well, though, that you could involve the kids in.
Yeah, you know, having adult coloring books and just sitting, you know, sitting down and coloring and, you know, just right there, just for a few minutes where you know what's going around, but, you know, you've got something right where you can just focus on that. The biggest thing is what happens is we, until it's almost too late, don't realize that we need that break. And so if you practice mindfulness, if you practice taking a break, you know, a 2 or 3 minute break every hour, every 2 hours, just to purposely relieve your tension, I think then you will find that once you're in that habit, you'll feel better.
Well, and I know I said you could involve the kids in it, but that also then made me think about if you schedule this, even if you schedule it in your mind that you're going to take these breaks, you could offer it to the kids as they get 5 minutes of screen time, tablet time, something that they enjoy, that, you know, I know the kids are safe, they are contained, they're where they need to be. I can step outside and have a cup of coffee on the porch or something like that. So the children are getting something that they enjoy, and you're taking that much needed break that, you know, that you need at that time. That being said, as long as there are limitations with it, as long as the kids know we set a timer. So, you know, in 5 minutes, this is when we're going to start our work again. Do you want to set the timer, or shall I set the timer? And things like that.
You know, and it's not bad parenting to say, okay, everybody's going to go to their room for quiet time for 20 minutes while I take a shower, or, you know, I do something, you know, go watch a mind-numbing show. Mom's going to take her break, everybody else is going to take a break, or dad's going to take a break, everybody else. So it's not bad parenting to say everybody gets 20 minutes of quiet time in their room. And I think that's where, as parents, we feel like, you know, we had kids and, you know, we need to keep them with us and we need to stay connected. But part of staying connected is staying emotionally available. And just because we're all in the same room does not mean we're emotionally available to our kids. So what's going to help you be emotionally available? Take a break, go take a shower. You know, send them to their rooms. You got 15 minutes, whether it's screen time, Kirsty, whether it's listen to some music, whatever it is, give them 50, because they need time alone too. They just don't know that they need time alone. And have them read a book, and that will give you your 15 minutes as well.
Yeah, and Kirsty, you had said like scheduling it. So if you could schedule, 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, 5 or 10 minutes right before you're making lunch for everybody, and 5 or 10 minutes before you start dinner, those are perfect opportunities for you to recollect yourself, because what we know is at different transition times, whether that's getting ready for lunch or getting ready for dinner, it's a stressful time. So that would be a good time for us to be able to regroup and kind of just chill ourselves out before we have to go into a meal.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the fact that transitions are difficult for us as well as for our kids. That, because how often do you've got something coming up, whether it could just be making dinner, but you feel that kind of, that stress coming on of, I've got to get this job done, and you start tensing up. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. That would be a great time to schedule a break for everybody. Okay. So speaking of breaks and changes and transitions, so one of the questions we have is, how do I prepare my children for changes when I don't know what is coming next? So with regards to the pandemic, and is the state opening, isn't the state opening, are the schools opening, are businesses opening, aren't they, that kind of thing. So how do we help our kids when we every day are kind of getting different pieces of information? What do you think, Marcia?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Me? Yeah. I was gonna make, sometimes less information is more. If you're like, well, we don't know, the governor said this, and we're looking at May this, and the kids don't know dates, and kids perceive, the younger they are, it feels like a long time. And so, sometimes it might be as simple as, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. But what we can do, and we can't play on the playground, but we can go to the park and kick a ball if they're wanting the park open. When can we go out to eat? You know what? I wish I could tell you. Are you wanting to go out to eat? Well, I wanted to go to, well, we can do takeout. How about we do takeout on Thursday, and put it in your schedule? Because we don't know. And if we make something up or try to project a time, well, in a month, we're going to be able to do this. And, a month seems like a lifetime to a kid. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to see what the governor says next month, especially when you're talking about, can we go swimming, or when can we go to Six Flags? Well, they're going to open it up in a month. Oh, you're going to get a lot of panicking, because that's a long time. I don't know. I wish I could, but in the meantime, why don't we, do something else? I don't know. What do you think, Brooke?
I was just gonna say, maybe you can change the topic to, we don't really know what will change in the near future out in society, but here in our house, we're going to be doing a lot of activities as a family. This is a great opportunity for us to have dinner together every night, and really kind of just focus on your family and not the outside. So then you're giving them that predictability of what they know, what's going to happen in their own house.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Just kind of
I know the more that we worry about it, and the more that we're anxious about it, the more the kids are going to worry about it and be anxious about it. And I don't know if we talked about it here, but watching the news and talking to your partner about the COVID and all the changes, and all the deaths, and kids are smart, they hear it. That's going to bring their anxiety up. And I shared with Brooke, I have a grandson that's not quite 2, and when all this started, he started having meltdowns. I mean, he's like randomly out of nowhere, he started not sleeping. So my daughter asked me, and I said, well, it could be you're anxious about the COVID. You've been texting me, oh, another death, another case. And she's like, no, I'm just the mom. I don't know anything. I was telling Brooke, it's kind of annoying, but so she was telling her husband, and so they decided to do nothing but positive talk in their house. And as soon as they eliminated all the COVID talk, as soon as they eliminated all the talk amongst themselves, because they didn't know he was hearing, he was playing in the same room, but they didn't. He went back to his normal self. He went back to sleeping all night. And so it gave me a mom a little credibility. But, you know, kids feel our tension. Kids feel when we're anxious. And, you know, we would love more than anything to be able to go to a restaurant or, you know, take the kids to the museums or something. But the more we are, the less anxious we are, the less anxious our kids are. The more comfortable we are doing things together in the house, the more comfortable they will. And they won't rely on outside stuff.
Would it be okay though so us being positive, does that mean that we can't be empathetic or empathic to them? Or is there still room for us to provide some empathy with that?
You have to provide some empathy. I mean, kids love to go outside. They love to go to the park. They love to go swimming during the summer. That's what they do. They love to get on their bikes and meet up with their friends and play baseball. And now they can't. And so really let them know, yeah, it's, I'm sorry. I hate this too. And I really wish you could play, you know, I love watching you play baseball. And then switching it over. You know what, let's go do some batting practice outside. So when they do open up and start baseball practice, you're going to be a top hitter, you know, whatever, you know, or the catcher or pitcher, so that you can at least replace, you know, add something to it where it's some quality time and you're empathic and they know you get it.
But we're trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so another question that we had, and we kind of spoke a little bit about this earlier, but the question is, I'm struggling with time management during the day. Is it okay if some activities are longer than others? Brooke, do you want to speak a little bit about that? I know we talked about it earlier, but we can recap a little bit.
I would say it's okay for activities to be different span of amount of time, because not everything is going to take just 30 minutes. So just being aware if it's, let's say homework ran over and you were about an hour and 15 minutes, knowing that they've sat a really long time, that we need to get them physically moving after that. So just trying to balance out how much is downtime and how much is uptime. So like if you were outside and you played for 2 hours, knowing you need to come in and kind of bring their energy down a little bit with either a board game or watching a movie. It's just, we have to try to balance out the type of activity, whether it's low or high activity.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You have to, here's the one thing I would always encourage. If the activity is going well and smoothly, if the brothers and sisters are getting along, you know, don't stop it abruptly and go to the next one. Just let it play out. So if you're making cookies and the cookies are done and they've had a great time and the activity is supposed to be done at such time, let them sit and then have cookies and milk. You know, you don't have to go back to, okay, you know, you want to make sure that it goes with the flow. It's a rhythm of what everybody needs in that moment. Not necessarily so focused on the schedule that it's like, okay, now it's time to, we got to stop. The cookies are done. We got to stop. And everybody's like having a really good time. It's like, okay, now, you know, just enjoy that moment and let it go for as long. Once you see the kids are starting to kind of wander away from the activity, it's time to regroup and go to the next one. But it's going with the rhythm of your family.
So something is obviously happening in my neighborhood right now. We were talking about social connection last week. And I'm guessing they are doing, have you guys had the neighborhood, people driving around the neighborhood and honking horns and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like we've had the parades for birthdays and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's might be what's happening. So forgive me if there's a few horns coming through on the microphone. But so what I hear you, tell me if I'm correct, what I hear you guys both saying is that really it's about being attuned to our child's needs in the moment rather than sticking strictly to a schedule. It's about being attuned to what they are experiencing or needing at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question that we've had, so this is relating to the change from, so we're talking about children who are in the foster care system and the change from having in-person visits to virtual visits. These are some struggles that they've had. Are there any positives that have come from this, or what are some ways that we can try to find positives in having virtual visits for our children who are in foster care? Marcia, do you want to maybe
I
start?
do. I've been doing these actually. I think the key in doing that is helping, and this is for the foster parents and the bio parents, is to be able to come up with a schedule and support the kids, the foster parents support the kids in really connecting. So if there's a song going on, have the foster parent, Baby Shark comes to mind because that just keeps playing over and over in my head, helping the child dance to Baby Shark and Mommy Shark. We recently had where it's like show and tell, where one child, brings everybody, brings something, and encouraging the foster mom, we really want to stay connected. And so finding something special that this child did and bring it to the visit, to stay connected. Those are things, having books and everybody sitting around and mom reading, even though some of the kids can't read, having story time, so it's really working together between the bio parents and the foster parents to really create some experiences. Recently, the one I did, they did sign language. One of the little boys is learning sign language. So we taught everybody on screen how to say, "More milk, please." And so we were all saying, "More milk, please," in sign language. And they were so proud of themselves. They're little and they felt so accomplished. And so that was fun for them. And they felt really proud of themselves. And so finding ways to really get excited, not only to see each other, because, let's face it, I like you guys very much, but I don't know that I could sit for an hour and not talk to you or engage you in some kind of conversation. So really working together and with the caseworker to provide some activities that you can do virtually.
Yeah, I was just going to share, like, anything that you can do to engage in an activity that's fun, to keep the kid engaged in the virtual calls.
Yeah, because we've all been on a phone call with a child, and children find it extremely hard to speak when they're so interested in the things that are around them rather than the phone call or that kind of thing. So I really like your ideas of trying to find some activities that can be the focal point to create that connection between the parent and the child.
Right.
I think it's easier to, try to work with the parent on the positives of being able to have, at least to be able to see and hear your child. Because, we could find ourselves in the position, if we didn't have this technology, we wouldn't be able to have any kind of connection with a child, which would be, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's much harder to explain that to the child that, okay, we can't go in person, but we're going to see them on the computer screen. So doing things that are fun, that kind of takes that sadness, that sad part away, and makes it more of a exciting, enjoyable time. I think would be some of my suggestions.
Yeah.
Marcia, do you have any other thoughts about, the difficulties that kind of the foster and adoption teams are kind of facing right now?
I mean, it's a challenge right now. I'll be honest with you, trying to coordinate everybody's schedules to be able to get everybody in one place on Zoom. And, the parents are missing the kids. You've got the foster parents really trying to support this, but they've also got other kids in their house too. So putting a kid in front of the computer that's 2 or 3 and still try to manage this back here, it's really stressful for the foster parents. So I give the foster parents a lot of kudos and how they're able to manage that. And the ones that I've sat in, they've done a spectacular job. Just helping everybody understand that these kids need to see a smiling face, out of their parents. They need to feel the support of the foster parent. And they need to know that when the call ends, there might be some sadness. And with kids, sadness, we know, comes out as behaviors. And it could be feelings of frustrations because maybe the kid didn't get recognized. Maybe the engagement wasn't there. So then there's some lonely, some feelings. But there might be some big feelings come after the visits. And foster parents are the ones that get that. And so being aware of that.
What might be some things that you would suggest that foster families might do with a child after the call is over to help you?
I would think some closeness, some holding, rocking, empathy, acknowledging, wow, you saw your mom, and just leave it, or you saw your dad. And then that opens the door to, if they're able to verbalize what's going on. Yeah, and they didn't even talk to me once, or yeah, and I really miss them, or, say, yeah, this is really hard. You probably want to hug them, or you probably want to see your brother, be able to play cards with your brother. So just being there for them in that moment, holding their big feelings. It's hard because sometimes they hold the big feelings in until bedtime. Bedtime is one of those times where everything's quiet and they're stuck alone with their thoughts. And then all the thoughts come, then they don't want to go to bed, and they have to have 10 drinks and go to the bathroom 20 times. And what they're really saying is, you know what, I need a little extra attention. I'm having a big feeling. And, it's our job as parents and foster parents to guess what that big feeling is. It's like, oh, wow, you had a visit. Now you're probably thinking about your mom. Oh, you saw your sister, and your sister didn't talk to you. That must have made you feel very sad. So just being there for them and being attuned, a lot of attunement, especially after visits.
No, go ahead, Brooke.
I was going to say, I think that's ideal, is to do some type of nurture activity, like pulling them close and being there. But then we also have those very active kids that need to let it out through maybe running outside or doing something like that. So if they need the physical activity, getting them moving, but then if you can sneak in touches with that moving. So like if you say, run around the trampoline real quick, but then high five me each time you run around in the circle, anywhere where we can get that touch in for them would be helpful.
Completely agree. Completely.
So then I was going to bring up the other type, where we have maybe an older child, teenager, who doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to engage in the conversation. And, often we try, oh, okay, how are you feeling? How did it go? Let's talk about it. And what do they do, Marcia? They say, no.
Go away, I'm fine, don't talk to me. Sometimes in very colorful language. Yeah.
And, in those times, that's when it's okay for us to just say, okay, I see you don't want to talk about this right now. Thanks for letting me know that. but I'm going to be here if and when that time comes and you want to talk about it.
And, you know, you don't even have to talk about it more than just be present for them.
Okay.
You know, if they're isolating in their rooms, you can bring them a snack and say, hey, just checking on you. I'm fine. Go away. Oh, okay. Well, I just brought you a snack. I don't want it. Okay, well, I'll just leave it here. You know, because that's a feeling of rejection. You know, all of this is really hard for kids anyway, adolescents. And it's like, just go away. I don't want to talk to you. But just continuing to, you know, kind of push through that and say, well, I brought you a snack and I brought you your favorite drink. I know that seeing your mom and not being able to have visits is hard. I don't really care. You know, they're going to put up that barrier. You're just going to leave that, you know, go back 20 minutes later and say, hey, we're getting ready to watch some TV. You want to come down now? Go away. Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to, you know, and keep trying to push through that resistance. That's what I would recommend.
I like that, Marcia. You know, too often and I mean, in how I described it then, as adults, we jump into either trying to fix the problem or wanting to talk about it too much. And actually, our kids are really good at telling us that they don't want to talk about it right now. They're not ready for it for whatever reason.
Right, right.
And we have to adjust our own agenda and say, it's okay. I'm okay to not have to talk about it right now because this isn't about me. This is about you. I know in some of my interactions with kids, some of the most powerful interactions I've had is when the child is, you know, obviously in a state of dysregulation, is very upset, and I've just sat with them and just said, I'm just going to sit with you. And literally that would be it. There would be no additional, tell me what's happening, what did you do, that kind of thing. Just sitting with them. And it's amazing the impact. We talk about regulation in the upcoming webinar. It's amazing the impact that as the adult you can have if you can just sit and be calm, and you just kind of watch that child become calm or calmer, maybe not to their baseline, but they become much calmer and they're not in crisis anymore.
Well, and the foster parent can sit by the child or have the child sitting on their laps or nearby, you know, while they're having a visit. You know, I have seen that being more effective where the foster parents are present rather than just, you know, sitting them there and then going, you know, kind of standing off and letting the visit occur. You know, some kids may say, well, I'd rather do it by phone, you know, by virtual or by phone anyway. It's just easier for me. And some kids have to ride a long way to get to the visit. So it's less stressful because they don't have to think during that drive, you know, what am I going to say? What are we going to do? But I've seen some good things come out of it. I've seen some good connection amongst the siblings too. You know, but it's just hard I can tell you it's hard for the parents, and it's hard on the foster parents.
Okay, so another question that we've had is, what is the best way to respond when my kids see their friends on social media out playing? So Brooke, what do you think about that?
I've had to have this conversation with my kids because they'll see on Snapchat that they're, you know, a couple of their friends are together, and I just have to say, you know, it's that old saying, well, you know, at our house, this is what we do, and be okay with not caving, because you start to feel guilty because you do see their peers hanging out together, and here you feel like you're punishing them, or they think you're punishing them. So just being real and saying, I know it's really hard when you see your friends hanging out together, but you know what my goal is to keep our family safe, and then other people safe as well by following the guidelines that's been put out by the governor. And in our situation, if you can give them like a visual of what you're trying to do. So my kids have 3 great grandparents. And so I say, you know, we have to do everything we can because, you know, our great grandparents are some of the vulnerable people, and we are going to do everything in our power here in order to keep people like that safe. Marcia, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, that's tough because when your kids see their friends playing, that brings up, why do they get to, and we don't, mom's being mean, dad's being mean. But I think really reinforcing, like Brooke said, yeah, maybe they are doing that, but we have to keep our family safe. And we have people that, if they get it, may not come out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And, the older they are, the more information you can give them. And the younger they are, you want to give them less information, but enough that they understand that you would love nothing more than them to be able to go out and play with their friends, but you want them safe and you don't want them sick.
So let me ask you this, the two of you, have either of you seen any really good activities that the kids can do together, but not actually together? So
yeah, so I have boys. So I've taken my boys fishing, and they've had friends meet us at whatever pond or lake we're at. And we do keep that social distance from each other. So that fishing is a good example of still being able to follow all the rules that that's been put in place for us. I mean, if you can ride bikes out at a park, I know in Quincy we have like Mormon Park, you can go out there and ride. Just letting your kids know beforehand that they have to stay, within 6 feet away from each other.
I think with some of the areas opening up now, that will allow a little more freedoms where the kids will not feel as isolated. Playing catch, frisbee golf, or some things that really can keep you at a distance, but you still have that connection. Girls like the video dance. They'd like to make video dances together, do Skype dances. They like to do the Snapchat stuff. So a lot of electronics, which is not great for them, but sometimes, especially the older kids, letting them connect through social media, through electronics. I know the older boys like getting online with their friends and playing some of the online internet games. So allowing that throughout the week, but not like letting it consume them, making sure that they know, from 7 to 8 is your, game time. Tell your friends, text your friends, say you can be on from 7 to 8, and that would be what I would recommend.
Yeah, it's all about setting those limits and expectations with it. And the thing that I found working with kids is that the more you can, no, I'm not saying the more expectations you set, but the more consistently you set those expectations and those limits, and the repetition, we talked about repetition before, is that they do very well with it. They like to know what's coming. They like to have that kind of structure. Plus it gives them things to look forward to. So, hey, we have to do our schoolwork and then we have to do our chore, but don't forget, after that, you've got your internet time or your tablet time when you get to meet up with your friends, that kind of thing. But making sure that you hold them to that expectation. Okay, we have to get our schoolwork done. Don't forget, if we get our schoolwork done and our chore done, then it's going to be time for your tablet. And most kids, to me, respond fairly well. The more preparation we can give for those transitions.
Yeah, if they can see it, I like the schedule so that they can see it. They see it's coming. It's a visual reminder. Okay, I am going to be able to get out of the house and go for a bike ride at this time, but I got to get these things done. Okay, I'm going to be able to see my, get on social media, get on my electronics at this time, but I got to get this stuff done. So the more they can see it, it is like daily hope for the future.
So what about activities that our kids can do in the home with us? What are some creative ways? So I'm putting myself in the shoes of a parent who has lots of chores that need to be done. So I'm thinking about laundry and dishes and cooking and cleaning. What ideas do you guys have for creative ways to engage our kids in those? Like, are there games that you get kids to play with you to get jobs done? Or, you know, different challenges that you can set the kids to help get chores done while we're also having fun? Marcia's smiling. She's
Marcia, you take that one.
I got, you know, the older kids love a challenge. So, you know, how quickly can you do A, B, and C? And then you write it on the board and then say, okay, yesterday you did this at such and such, took you this long. Can you beat it? But remember, you got to do a quality job. You know, throw in a basket at the end. You know, if your bedroom's upstairs, throw in a basket at the end. Say, okay, let's see how many shirts you can throw down the stairs from your bedroom into the laundry basket. And then count them up, or how many items. And one sock does not count as one. You have to get both socks in, you know. So you're like, make it kind of a funny. Those are kind of things. With the littler ones, the more you can do it together, the funner it's going to be. Do you want to spray the, you know, to dust, or do you want to wipe? Oh, you know, and make sure you praise. Oh, that's really good wiping. So, you know, you got your scores and, you know, your full basket of clothes, that's their reward. And the little ones get it. Oh, that was good job spraying, is theirs. You know, anything that you can make as a game keeps everybody regulated, makes it more fun. Give them the choices. Oh, do you want to set the table today, or do you want to put ice in the glasses? And they say, oh, I don't want to do either. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you want to sit there and watch while I do both? And then just start, you know, skipping around and being real silly, and they're going to roll their eyes, and that's okay too. You know, you can even say, oh, that was such a fabulous eye roll, and just keep on moving. Because, you know, that's just, you know, the funner you can make it, and the less scratchy you are at it, I think it'll make life so much easier.
Brooke, do you have any other suggestions?
I would say with cooking, a lot of kids like to help prepare meals. So some parents might think that they don't think it's fun, but I've seen a lot of kids engage in helping prepare meals, and then it's a positive interaction between the parent and the child.
Yeah, we have a lot of kiddos that we work with on our campus that I think at least probably 9 times out of 10, when it's food prep time, they definitely are engaged, and they love to contribute. Yeah. And, you know, gives them that sense of belonging that I'm doing something for the rest of the people here, which is a really great feeling for them. And, you know, there's all kinds of fun ways, you know, how many different colors can we get on our plate tonight, that kind of thing. And as Marcia said, using choices, would you like to wash the veggies or cook the veggies, something like that. Something, Marcia, I wanted to ask you too is, you had mentioned about you know, like setting a challenge for an older kid, and I heard you say, you know, today you got this, yesterday you got this time, and today you got this time. Should we be comparing our siblings, or is that not a good idea?
If they can tolerate the competition, yeah, you know, it's fun. If it's a nice competition, if it becomes obsessive, then I would eliminate it. But if it's fun to say, okay, I got 12 of my dirty clothes in the basket and you only got 13. So then tomorrow it's like trying to see who can get the most dirty clothes in. If it's a healthy competition, yes. But if it leads to some stress and some obsession over it, then it needs to stop.
So we'd be better off just comparing the individual. So, oh, you got 12 in yesterday. I want to see you get 13 in today, something like that.
I always like to make it so that they feel better about themselves
Mm-hmm.
rather than compare to another person.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially in a time where everyone is just feeling anxious about everything.
Even when I do relay races, I time them. Might time, you know, we're doing 2 time, and we're not racing each other. We're going to do it twice. We're going to time you, and each of you get a score, and then you can do it again and see if you can make it better. So they might think that they're competing, but they're really not. They then focus on, look how much better you did the second time. You're beating yourself.
Would you say you could almost put that same logic to doing schoolwork as well? You know, yesterday you got 2 questions done. I wonder if we can get 3 done today.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. You know, you could say, how many questions do you think you can get done today? 3 or 4? And then they say, well, I can do 3. That's great. Or I can do 4. And you could say, wow, that's an awful lot. Are you sure you can do 4? Yeah, I can do 4, you know. So they feel like they, you know, they are competent. Oh yeah, I can do 4. Okay, so the next day you say, now you did 4. Do you want to stay at 4? Do you want to try 5? 5's a big number, so you make it, you know, and then they're like all excited. Oh wow, 5 is a big number. I can do 5. I can do 5. Okay, so you're like the cheerleader.
Like a game show, you know. It's like
It is.
I would like that if I was a kid. So I think that would be good. Okay, so we are going to get ready to wrap up. I think why don't we share one tip each? I think that would be quite nice let's share one tip each for, you know, for our parents who are out there. What would be one thing, if they could do nothing else, that you might suggest that they would do? So my tip is going to be, if nothing else, try to take just 5 minutes a day for self-care, whether that be sitting outside with a cup of coffee, reading a book for 5 minutes, just being quiet for 5 minutes, trying to find, just setting aside just 5 minutes in your day just for you and your own self-care and what you need in that moment.
I was going to say the same thing, Kirsty, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we're not going to be able to bring our 100% to our kids. So the most important thing is to take care of yourself. And oftentimes we feel like, oh, I don't have time for that because I'm so busy doing schoolwork and my own working from home. But that's really the most important thing about your day in order to be able to tackle all the tasks that you have that day. But since you stole that,
I was gonna say, are you gonna add something? Or?
Yeah.
Don't steal mine.
Take time and have fun with your kids, you know, with an activity of some sort. Make sure you guys laugh together as a family at least once a month. Did I steal yours, Marcia?
Of course, go ahead.
I think that having, anything that you can find laughter and joy in is going to relieve everybody's stress level. So I think that's a really great suggestion. Marcia, do you have anything else?
Well, I was gonna say, have some fun and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't laugh at yourself and you can't laugh at the kids, turn on the TV and find something really funny on TV, just to mind numb and laugh. So that was my, that was what I was hoping I could say. But my next one is, you know what, give yourself a break and give yourself credit for what you're doing now. People just don't do this, okay? And we have to get used to it. And so if you yell at your kid, don't beat yourself up, go back, repair it, say you're sorry, and move forward. Don't think you're a bad parent. Everybody's been there, we've all done it, and then go back to taking care of yourself and to having fun.
So self-care, having fun, and give yourself a break sometimes because you're doing a great
Those are good tips, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everyone who joined us this evening for our webinar. We hope that we were able to answer some of your questions and give you some good tips during this time, and we will be back same time next week for more of your parenting during the pandemic and our chat with Chaddock. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.